Hello, fellow map makers. Welcome to tonight's map making session. Hope you're all right and on the northern hemisphere enjoying the summer. Here it is actually very hot today, much too hot for my preferences, and I hope I'm be able to do a proper session without melting along the way. And for those on the southern hemisphere, I hope your winter is nice and not too bad, and you're enjoying your time as well. I am Ralf Schermann of Pro Fantasy Software, and tonight I want to show you a bit of Cavern and cave mapping with Campaign Cartographer and Dungeon Designer 3. As always, if you have any questions during the session, post them in the chat, and Sue will collect stuff and forward it to me, which I can answer during the session and see what I can help you with. We've got the first question already. I see how hot. Not up to speed in converting into Fahrenheit at the moment, but it's a little over 30 degrees in Celsius, and that's quite unusual for mid-June here in Germany, where I am. The cat is definitely not enjoying it, and I don't think she'll be coming along tonight. She's lying in some cool spot and just stretched out, avoiding the heat as much as possible. Okay, so let's see how we go on here. I've got the example map from the original annual, which I'm referring to here on screen. This is the July annual issue from 2007, from our first year of the Cartographer's Annual, which covered both fantasy, floor plan type map making, and more modern type cave maps. I'll be concentrating mostly on the fantasy floor plan type of battle map type here tonight. So let's get started. I'm going up here to the new map icon on the file toolbar, clicking that and not saving this map, and our template we're looking for is under Dungeons. So I click Next, and we do have the Annuals Case DD3 template here, or style here. This is very similar to the Dungeon Designer 3 style. Basically, it is the Dungeon Designer 3 style, just with some additional cave tools added, and it's explained in the annual what additional tools are in there, because if you're concentrating on caves, you might need a few more things and more additional tools than is in the basic DD3. So this version of the style gives that to you, but you can also draw caves just normally with the Dungeon Designer 3 style, and I'll show you what tools to set up and what to do if you're working from a normal floor plan template or dungeon template in the coming session. Okay, so I'm clicking Next, and here I've got a size of 500 by 400 feet set up. That's the default template size in this style. Back then, when we started out with the annuals, not all of them were set to our default size of 1000 by 800. So we can leave this. This is a good size to do some mapping tonight, and we'll leave this as is and just click Finish at this point and save our map. Yeah, we've got the first request already from someone to make an outdoor to indoor transition. Yeah, I can see what I can do here. It's not something that's typically covered in that style directly in the mapping guide, but I'm sure I can do this here. So let's start with just laying out some outline of a cave, and we do have the quite standard cave drawing tool up here, default cave, and I'm clicking that tool on the left toolbar and putting down my first point, and then you can see that the cave tool uses Fractal polygon as its default style or default type of tool. And this is nice, obviously, for natural rocky or earthen wall that's not been shaped by humans, as most of our normal fantasy dungeons are. And let's just zoom in a little bit and see, to get a little bit closer look at the tool, because I want to show you how to modify this as you go along. The Fractal tool can be changed in two different ways. You can both increase and lower the depth of the tool. That's the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard, and that's basically the number of nodes in the section you're drawing, but this might also be modified or affected by the drawing tool in other ways. Take a look at this in a moment. And more importantly, with the up and down arrows, you can increase the strength of your fractal function. That means how far each point on the fractal function deviates from the mean. So yes, you can see I'm clicking the up arrow, and the curve gets much more pronounced, it gets more jaggy. And if I go along the other way, I can decrease that until it's almost a straight line without any much variation at all. So this way I can change from walls that might be straightened by someone building or modifying the caves to something very natural with very irregular walls. And I'm going to draw something irregular here, so we'll keep the fractal function strength quite high. The other thing you can do, you can hit the spacebar to randomize the fractal function, basically giving it a whole new look until you've got something that you like, and then continue with that. And then each point you click will fix one section, and you can go work on the next section. That also means I could now do a section that is much straighter. Say we've got perhaps some kind of natural rock formation, or the cave butts up to some underground construction, a dwarven tunnel or something. And so I'm putting in a straight section here, and then I'm hitting the up arrow key again to create something more natural looking. So this is all within the same tool. So let's just put in a fairly random cave outline here. Right clicking, finish the whole thing, and there's our cave. And then I can turn on the sheet effects to show. One of the tricky things is always on the cave, in the cave map, to show the transition from the floor to the walls of the cave, and here it is done with a strong glow effect. It is a very dark outside glow and a softer inside glow, and I think that works fairly well, of course, in addition to the different color of the earthen walls and the stone floor. And what you can also should show you, this cave style does use a separate wall line to give it that a little bit more definition. For that I'm going to just quickly show the wall, only the walls sheet. I'm opening the drawing sheets and effects list, and then choosing walls as the current sheet, hide everything else, and there you can see that is our wall line. That will become a little more important later. So now we've got a thing where we want a outside to inside transition. So we've got a cave entrance, something that leads into this cave from the outside. So for that to start, let's modify this a bit to create a tunnel that leads to the outside. And for that I'm just going to select the cave tool from the left drawing toolbar again. And as you can see, it says edit in the command line, so I can just press the E button, click on the existing cave wall somewhere, and draw a little bit of tunnel. And here I'm gonna make use of my straighter wall section again, arrow up to make it natural. And once I'm almost done with my edit, I just right click and choose the edit connection to the existing cave wall. And there. So this will be my entrance, and here I'm going to the outside. So what I do need now is let's start with just some outside grass area. For that I'm gonna check my terrain drawing tools. I right click the tool to get the selection, and I actually in here I only have the brown tones in here. Okay, so we did cut down on the drawing tools for this style. We didn't use all the Dungeon Designer tools. It's been too long. I've actually forgotten that. But let's just start by drawing a bit of floor here and say this is my outside section. What I'm gonna do now is just simply I'm gonna hide everything but the floor sheet, because I want to work on this now. And here I do need for this, obviously I don't want the harsh black outline, because I don't want any walls on this. This is the outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on a different sheet. So I'm going to my Sheets and Effects button here, right click that, move to sheet, select our polygon, press D for do it, and I'm going to put this on the outside sheet. See, and there's our harsh outline already gone. And what I also want to change is the texture. So I'm going to select this and go for the fill style. And let's have a look. The grass tools are in here, so I'm just going to use the green grass. And now I'm thinking perhaps our map is a little bit too large, the texture is so small. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use extract properties on this, so I get the fill style that's been used in this polygon. See a grass green one up here, and I'm just going to rescale that to something larger, say to 40 feet. And that looks better, that matches better with the cave outline. But what we have of course strong shadow here, and if we show our walls sheet, you'll see we also have the walls going right across the entrance, and we do want an open entrance going from the inside to the outside. So what I'm going to do is, first up I'm going to move the outside sheet, move down so it is below the floor sheet in the list. That means it's drawn afterwards and therefore covers this. And there at least we've got the outline here, the black shadow not showing because it's beneath the grass texture. And then we do need to work on the floors outline, the wall outline. Click walls, hide everything else. And here I'm going to break this and just put a gap into the walls. For that I'm going to the left toolbar. There's the break command. Click that, select the entity I want to break, and importantly select it somewhere in the section that is there to remain on the map, which we don't want to break away. So up here, and then I'm gonna just remove this section and show all. So that's already quite nice, but perhaps I find the transition here a bit too harsh from the green to the gray. So what I'm going to do I'm going to go to the outside sheet and add in sheet effect. And that's going to be the edge fade inner. And say I want to fade my edge across 3 feet. Inner opacity is 100%, outer opacity is 0. This is going to be in map units. Okay, blocks. And there's my outside, so inside and transition. Good, like it. That's a good start on our map. One more thing you can do in this map. This map style has some tools for drawing lighted areas in here. So we're seeing it's like bright outside and sun is falling inside the cave. So I'm gonna click my All Drawing Tools button and see we've got a Cave Light tool here. I'm gonna grab this, and here I'm gonna trace. Let's zoom in closer, you can actually see what I'm doing. I want to, obviously the whole outside is gonna be lit. So I'm gonna select the green area and follow the trace up here. I'm just gonna go to here where the cave and the outside meet. And then I'm gonna trace a little bit of the cave wall, so that the light is actually shining inside. Then I'm going to just draw across the floor here. Then I'm going to trace the other side of the cave wall up to the end here. And then I'm going to trace the green grass area again, all the way around. Right click to finish. And that's my lit area. Sunshine is bright outside. It's probably hot. And so a bit of light is falling into the cave here. So this is already a nice cave, but we do want to show it that it goes a little bit deeper. So we do need some, I always like to extend my maps, draw my maps so they extend a little bit beyond the map borders, or seem to extend beyond the map borders, just to give the impression that I'm mapping something that is not just my screen, but something larger world, and something to hook players onto where they can go exploring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the cave again and draw a couple extensions that just go to the map border. Same down here. Oops, that was a bit too quick. Undo. E for edit. There we go. Now we've got 2 spots where... Oh, okay. That's a bit... I see what happened. Because I broke the cave wall previously. Here at the entrance, it doesn't recognize it as as belonging to the rest of the cave tool anymore, and so doesn't edit it. But what we're just going to do here, we can just erase that, I think, and work without the cave outline. The shadow is strong enough on the cave walls that it looks good enough, or there's hardly any visible difference. So I'm just gonna leave the cave wall out here. I could have gone back and undid the entrance cave thing and then redid the edit, but this is much easier. So I tend to take the shorter options if I can find a quick workaround like this. So next up, caves are rarely flat, and we tend to draw dungeons as very flat, usually no height differences except for a few steps somewhere here or there. But natural caves are rarely level, and so we've got some drawing tools in here to show contours or height differences of the map, and I wanted to draw a bit of those. So I'm gonna go into the old drawing tools and see we've got some contours up here. And as you can see, they are in straight polygons. And I wanted to show you how to quickly convert this into a fractal polygon so you can draw it the same way as the cave walls. For that, I'm going to click the Advanced Drawing tool, choose the first tool, no save, and then the draw method is not path, but the fractal. And here I want to show you the fractal options. Basically, that's the start of the depth and strength of the fractal function we are using. And you can see 30% is the strength here. The depth means 2. That's between each point I click. It will add 2 fractal steps, meaning basically it's going to be 4 nodes between them. But we've also got limited segment lengths. That means the section between 2 points will mostly be 5 drawing units and at minimum 1 drawing unit. And that is why you didn't see a difference in drawing depth earlier, because basically we were already at the max limit. And then increasing the strength didn't do anything. Not that the strength did something, this was the depth. Increasing the depth, that didn't do anything. And you can change this from referring to drawing units to percentage of the map border by checking this option here. But for floor plan maps, drawing the got distracted there for a second. For floor plans, it's usually better to do this in map units. For overland maps, it's often better to do it in percentage of the map border. So we're just gonna set this to fractal, and then we're gonna draw in the first contour line here. Say it's gonna be highest at the entrance, and then I'm gonna do a contour line here, and I'm gonna follow the existing map border all the way around, all the way up to here. Right click to finish, and there's my first contour line. It's got by default transparency effect, which makes it very soft, especially for this video session. I'm going to turn off the transparency so you can see the color difference a little bit more clearly. And then we're going to go for the second depth. Again, we're going to make this a fractal tool. And now I'm imagining it's going down here, so perhaps a little bit higher on the edges. And then I'm going to follow from here, but only to here. So it's the next step of the contour. Oops, that's the wrong zoom button. And the next one, contour 3, fractal. This tunnel here, you can put in a higher section here at the end of this side cave. Just a little bit higher section here. Then follow the cave wall again here, and we do a separate contour here in this tunnel. It's also going down here. That looks good, and one more with the fourth contour. And oops, that was the wrong properties. I wanted to change the draw method. And here I'm just going to do the deepest section here in the corner. and a very deep section here at the tunnel, where the tunnel goes off from the to the map border. Good, that's nice. You can see the contours here are done in different bitmap textures, basically the gray bitmap textures going from the lightest to the darkest version, which looks nice, but it also means that we're limited to the different ones we have. But we can, of course, add additional contours by putting on different sheets and applying a darkening sheet effect to that. Or another thing I wanted to show you how to set up a drawing tool that lets you show darker sections or brighter sections as you stack them. Let's have a look here. So I want to copy one of the existing contour tools. So I'm selecting that, because then if I click new, the new one will be based on the existing one. So let's just call it contour darker. And instead of putting a texture like this, I'm gonna put in, if we have it in here, yes, there they are, a solid partially transparent bitmap. And so this is a 20% opacity bitmap, simply a black one with set to 20% opacity. If I select that, and let's make this just a dark gray, the color won't show up, it's just for reference. And it just looks gray here, but if I use this to draw on top of the existing ones, because it's black but not fully opaque, you can see that we do have another darker section on here. And if we do this again, so I can just stack this on top again. And it's a bit hard to see. Let's make these a bit more opaque. So change properties, both of these new drawn polygons. Instead of the solid 20, let's make it, oops, solid 40. Refresh, and there you can see it gets darker as we just stack them on top of the other. The downside is a little bit that you lose definition of the texture, because it's a flat black. That's the basic for that texture. So you won't will lose a bit of the bitmap texture as you're stacking these on top of each other. But it looks nice, dark and deep here. So that's good. So another thing that we often and that you have is side tunnels, of course, and or columns that stretch from the floor of the cave to the top. And the drawing style here, or the mapping style, does this by default by just drawing a wall section on a separate sheet. Let's show you. Clicking the all drawing tools, and here's the cave walls tool. You just choose that, draw a big column here, right click to finish, and it basically has the same sheet effects as the floors, or just reversed, and that way it looks like it's column in the middle of the cave floor. This was the common method of doing that back then when I created that mapping style. We do have a new sheet effect since then, and which is much easier to, or not really easier to use, but easier to set up, because you don't need additional sheets or anything, just another sheet effect. And I wanted to show you how to set up a effect like that for any mapping style. And so we're going to do that here now. It's because this is a common thing that you want to create a hole in your cave floor, which shows the rock And for that, we do have the color key effect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete that. Oh yeah, there's a question from Sue. It does look a little bit more fuzzy. That's because the wall polygon is on here. So take a look. See, that's the gray here is actually the wall polygon. If I hide that, see, it looks the same again. That's because I deleted the wall polygon on the earlier cave. So I'm gonna delete this section that I've drawn in, and instead I'm gonna open up the sheet list and go to the floors sheet, and what I'm gonna do, I'm add a color key effect. Basically, the color key gives you a color, and if the rendering engine finds that color on the sheet, it will punch a hole in it, basically not display it and show everything underneath instead. And we often use that's called the knockout color, and we use this magenta for this because it's not normally used in other stuff. It's useful as a reference color for selection and stuff. So we want to 0% not show at all the walls where we draw that, and so we leave the 0% opacity. I move it up in the list just because I want that to be the first operation done on the sheet. This doesn't change anything yet. We do need to draw in our color. So for that, we're going to create a drawing tool. We've got the cave walls here, and we want to cave walls cut out. So I'm not overwriting the existing tool, so I still have both options. And here I'm going to disable the outline because we don't want on any wall on here. And then the properties, we can choose our knockout color, and that's the color 6 up here, or magenta. And I'm going to draw on background floor 1. Wall's background is not the sheet we want. We want to draw this on the floors sheet because that's the sheet we apply the color key effect to. And then we're gonna add make the fill style solid so we can actually see the color. And this way we do have still the same fractal settings on the polygon. And now I'm gonna draw see, looks odd, the magenta on the floor, but if I do a redraw, it doesn't work. Okay, so something I've still done wrong. Let me have a look. See where's our... Aha, I know why. Because I've drawn the... it's underneath the contour. I've drawn the contour above this, so this is obviously not how it should work. So what we're going to do is we could... Let's just have a look whether it works without the contours. Yep. Hide this, and there's our hole in the floor. So I obviously should have drawn this first before I started on the whole contours. So how to quickly fix this without going back and redrawing all the contours? Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this whole thing to the contour sheet and do the same just there. So I'm just going to use copy to sheet. That's our entity here, to the floors contour sheet. And on floors, I'm going to copy the color key effect, and on floors contour, I'm going to paste this, move it up. Oh, we've got the edge fade effect here. Let's see whether that works. And it does work. Very nice. That way we do have the walls showing on the correct contour. We don't need to draw all the contour lines around our little sections in the middle. Very good. And So we could do, of course, if we want to do more like this, do the same, copy it over, and I'm gonna do a little trick here. Floors contour by going to the tool we've created, cutouts, and I'm gonna add an outline this time as an extra entity, but I'm give it the same properties. Magenta, fill style solid, 0 width, and layer back on floor 1, and it's gonna go on the floors contours sheet. Let's have a look that I used the correct sheet name for that. That way we're gonna create 2 copies of the same thing right at the same time. I use the tool that goes both on the floors sheet and the floors contours sheet. But I have to be careful. It's the floors contour, not contours. So I have to edit this and remove that S. So if we use the tool now, say here, few columns, we've got the holes in our floor right away. Very nice, looking good. And I wanted to add a few more. So if I'm drawing side tunnels, I can just draw this, and now we've got a tunnel branching off into a little side cavern, and make my cave much more natural looking and more varied this way. And all without worrying about drawing in the contours one by one and adhering to the tunnel walls. Nice. And perhaps a couple more here. And then we're done with the layout. Good. So that's a good layout for our cave. And just let's add a few individual features here. For example, this in this deep section here, I'm thinking that water is probably collected there for a deep pool. And see what we've got in drawing tools. Here we've got some green and blue waters. Let's do the green curved one. And just add it in here. There you should keep to the contours, because obviously water will be level. And then follow the wall here with the trace function. Follow the contour here. And again, I'm not too happy with the size of the texture of the water, so I'm going to use extract properties to have a look here. And again, I might add the small 10-foot size for the texture. Again, let's put it in 40. Looks better. And let's have a look at the water sheet. It does have a bit of a transparency, 60%. What I nowadays don't really do anymore is a blur effect on bitmap textures, because it just tends to muddy the textures. So I'm gonna turn this off. And we have got an outside glow. Let's do a bit of an inside glow with a dark green blue. No specific strong, just a soft one. There we go. That looks pretty good. And if we see, let's see our water here. If we put some symbols underwater here, let's add a new sheet. Add symbols. underwater, above the water sheet, and then use the debris to put in a corpse here. Snap. Use a little bit larger scale. Just the 500 by 400 feet map was probably a bit too large. Go. It's on the water. Not too happy. Hardly visible. But we are on the water sheet. Water. See, make the transparency just 30%. I think the glow effect was messing with the transparency. Glow and transparency are always a bit, you have to have them in the right order. There you can see the skeleton underneath the rocks under the water. And then I'm going to grab some cave rocks and also put them on the underwater sheet, symbol sheet, and scatter some more here. If you've got a symbol like this one, that doesn't rotate automatically, not randomly. See, for these I usually find it's if I'm putting in more than just a couple, it's very nice to have them rotated so they don't look all the same. And this is obviously handy if it is randomly rotated, so I don't have to do it myself each time I put on the symbol. You could, of course, go into the original symbol catalog and change it there, but then that would, you'd have to go in there when you change it back if you wanted to use it differently in a different map. And what you can do, you can just change it in the internal drawing list, symbol list of the drawing. So I'm going into the symbol manager and go down here to the rocks collapse, go to options. Give it a random transformation, options, and I want to rotate it, and I want to rotate it the full 360 degrees. No offset angle or no rescaling or anything. So just this. You won't see any change here in the symbol catalog window because this is the original catalog loaded, but you see a difference if you go to the internal. Symbol definitions, you can see there's a little R here in the left upper corner of the symbol, meaning it's got a random transformation applied. But no matter which one you click, because it just picks up the same symbol, now it's going to be rotated randomly every time I place it down, as you can see. Refresh, and you see it's all underneath the water. See, there we've got our little pool, and perhaps we want a little stream running off into the darkness here. So I'm going to grab the tool again. This time I'm going to choose a blue one, and let's say, no, I was a bit too quick. Is that our default tool? No. And here I'm just gonna draw a little trickle. There we go. And here we can add a few smaller rocks, and this time it's not gonna go underwater. It's just rocks lining the stream, and so don't want any big shadows on those, on these small symbols, so I'm gonna put it on the symbols flat sheet. And again, I can see these are, don't do random transformations. I'm going to go symbols, grab all my small symbols here, small rocks, options, and activate the random rotation. And now they're gonna rotate randomly for me as I place them on the map. Okay, so we've got this nicely done. One more thing we might want to do if we want to add a deep hole in the cave floor. So far we've drawn holes in the floor, but technically they are showing actually walls going up. So but if you've got something, a deep shaft or a tunnel that leading straight down into the earth, how do we show that? And let's see whether we've got tools for that already set up. I know the drawing did do something, the example drawing did something like that, but apparently not set up straight on the template. So we are gonna think about that a little bit. And first thing what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a bit of extra floor that's showing the outline of our hole. Basically it's supposed to be a bit lighter at the top edges and then going into darkness. And so I'm going to floors features. Does have an edge effect. Let's disable that and just use the existing floors features sheet for that for the moment. Let's have a look. What's the floor in opacity? Yeah, that might actually be already a good start. So let's see. We're on this here. Just let's try a dark, straight black polygon showing the outline of our hole. We can do a fractal polygon. Say we've got a hole here in our that's supposed to be the outline. Well, it's not so bad already. It's just a bit soft. It doesn't have a nice hard edge. So what can we do? Let's turn off sheet effects for the moment so we can actually see the outer edge of this. So let's say we want a bit of an offset of these the shadow, so we see an edge of the hole basically, and we could draw that by adding a lighter gray below that, and perhaps even with the, let's try it with the gray, the brightest gray texture. Oh, it's a bit too dark already. Let's see what else we've got. We've got this stone tile that's just fairly light. Let's give this a try and make a copy of our hole shape. Wait. Okay, I was confused for a moment because the other objects here are in the magenta of the selection color, but they're not selected. They just have that color by default. And I'm gonna add it to the floor hole. This up just above floor features. Okay. And use change properties, and then I'm going to right click and select by prior, which selects the object I've just copied, or the copy that I created. And for the fill style I'm going to use my gray flat that I wanted, and I'll also make it a different color just for selection purposes. I can find it more easily. There we go. You can't see it now because our black polygon is right on top. That's sheet effects. And that's what I was thinking already a little bit. We've got this, the bright edge, and then the darkness shadow going down into the depths. We can do a few more things playing around with this. Let's have a look. I'm thinking the darkness should probably start a little bit lower. So make the 8-foot edge. So we've got a little more brightness at the outside. This a little bit to the side, so we can just use the ply. Yeah, that's good. We can, on the floor hole, we can show a bit of an outside glow. So just to offset it a little bit against the floor around it, but that should be pretty soft and small. Yeah. And what I could try, I'm not quite sure it's gonna work, but let's try a bevel effect on the edges, so we do get some edges and stuff, but it must be a large one. Let's take the bevel, light it. Actually, because I don't want to a middle section of the bevel, the length should be larger than the whole across. So I guess I'm going to just take something very large, like 50 units. Say not too strong. Let's just do a quick apply. And see, we've got this nice darkness effect, and the corners creating these sharp edges on the rocks. I might make it a bit lighter, so we don't get that harsh shadows on the sides. Oh, it's looking pretty good. Perhaps, do we want some smoothing? No, I don't think we want some smoothing. And there we've got some corners to the edge where the rock's going down. Well, there we have a nice hole in the ground. And if you wanted to, make it something magical, you might even give it a glow coming from below. Well, let's have a look if we just use we use a different color, change color, and make this dark green. How that looks. Ooh. It's a bit too bright in the middle, I guess, to really look like a hole. I guess it's gonna be, might have to do a second one on top. Change color prior. No, change color by color. What did we use? Did we use the 99? Yep. Make this back into the black. And make a copy to a sheet of that entity. Do it. And let's try a second floors glow sheet. Up. Okay. Oops. No, I didn't want to bring up help. Just click OK. This doesn't have an effect now, of course, so we need to copy the edge fade effect, paste, and make it even less of the area, so 12 unit edge. And then we're going to change the color of that prior. Actually, it's this purple here. Oh, that I like that. I'll see you've now got this purplish color overlaying the black one below and creating this nice glow effect. And you could even continue doing that, adding more sheet effects and doing a still brighter glow in the middle, but with less area to show it, and so giving the impression that the light, there's a brighter light far below. Good. I quite like that. And what I've done now, I've shown the walls sheet again, which I've just hid previously from the where I did draw this in the old version. So I'm just gonna delete that. And from here, no, I forget, there's one more thing I wanted to show you, and that's the creating a grid just on the interior of your floors. Of course, you can just put on any grid. Say you wanted a bright gray, light gray grid on the map here. Draw hex or square overlay. Let's say we're working with with hexes and 5 or say 10-foot grid here. Hex grid, apply, and there's our hex grid on the map, which looks okay. But we do have it covering all the walls and everything where we don't need it. So what if we just want this on just the one, just on the floors showing, which will look much nicer. For that we can't do an irregular shaped grid with a grid drawing tool that just covers the floor, so we have to think of something else. And for that we are gonna create an overlay with hex grid fill. And for that we are gonna first copy all the sheets, all the entities we want gridded onto our grid sheet. So what we're gonna do, copy to sheet, and we want our back floor. We want all the entities in magenta color, which actually we don't want a grid on that, but that's the area we do not want the grid on. So we're going to combine those. I'm going to show you in a second how. And that's it. Do it and put it on the grid sheet. Let's hide everything but the grid sheet. See that we got the correct stuff on here. It's looking good. And we're now gonna go to our fill styles and the symbol fills. Actually, here we are. And we do have a hex grid here. See, hex grid 5 foot, and we wanted the 10-foot grid. There we go. We've got all the values in here. We could rescale that if we want a little bit different grid. And we're just going to use the default 10-foot grid here. And we also want it to be on the hex square grid layer. And now I'm going to multi-poly this into one entity. Use the multi-poly command. Select everything. Press D for do it. And it doesn't really work very well. I think I've got something doubled up here. It looks like I grabbed something that I shouldn't have. There's the contour in here, just hidden. This one is not something we want, so we're just gonna redo that. Multi-poly this, and that looks better. Okay, but it doesn't show the... I'm a bit disappointed. I thought I was creating the holes in there. Not sure why it doesn't do that now. Let's undo and just change properties of all this first, so we can see this more properly. Color 0, X square grid, fill style, hollow. Okay, let's have a look. Is this just one entity? No, it's 2 entities. That's why it doesn't work, because we got 2 entities on top of each other there. And now I've messed this up, because I've got double entities on top of each other, which are hard to select, because I also changed them all into the same properties. I can't select them by layer or color or anything. How do I get rid of the double entity there? Good you ask. I can show you. I'm going to use a command that just grabs one of the entities, and node edit is one of those. I just grab this and put one node way off from the entities here. Or actually, haha, no, that doesn't work anymore. Because good old Joe did change that command recently, and it now can grab multiple entities. So my good old trick doesn't work anymore. Okay, so let's have a look. We've got background floor 1, background floor 1, now they are all the same. I did change them to all the same. That's a bit annoying. What single entities? Dynamic edit. What I can do is can use numeric edit on this, because that just should just select one of them and just look at the entity, say okay, and then erase prior, do it. And now you can see I've just got one remaining here. So that's the command I'm gonna use for single entities. Edit. Okay. Prior, do it. But I'm not gonna do it for all of these things now. That's just gonna take too long, because we're already past our time for the session. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete the others here for now and just use these as an example. Now I'm going to go ahead and create my multipoly. And now you can see I've got the holes in there where the grid doesn't show. And now I can show everything again. And I have the hex grid only on the sections I want. See on here. What I could also, of course, do again, copy my cutout areas over to the grid sheet as well. That would be another solution to also create the holes and not have the grid showing up in these areas here. But this is basically what you do if you want to create a grid that covers only the floors area. You copy the floors to the grid sheet and give it that hex grid or square grid fill. Okay, then we've got a question: is there a way to draw a variant hex grid like those of Steve Jackson games Wizard Melee? Unfortunately, that's not something I know how that looks. Basically, what you can do, if you can create a regular symbol that, if you tile that into via the specifications here in the fill style and the symbol fills, then you can recreate it. But our default grids, snap grid, is limited to our hex grid and square grid. If the variant hex grid can be recreated with the normal hex grid, then you should be able to do it in some way. But since I don't know how the grid looks, I can't tell off the top of my head here. Yeah, there's the discussion about selecting by entity tags. That's possible, of course, as well. But since I'm bad at remembering numbers on the top of my head, and entity numbers tend to be fairly large in today's maps, I often have trouble remembering the tag and then entering it for selecting. So that's why I typically look for other methods of selecting double entities. But using selecting by tag ID is certainly an option, just to show you, unless you've created double multipolys. Entities all have unique IDs. So if I do an info list on these two entities here, you'll find a tag ID down here as the 11948, and the other one should be 11949. So that's the way you can differentiate these two, even if they are the same in all other ways. Of course, I know now why they are doubled up, but that's because I did double them up to create the same effect on a different sheet. So I should just have taken the entities from one of the two sheets that I created and not from both of them, and copied only that over to the grid sheet. Then I wouldn't have run into this problem. Okay, well, happy to found the cause of that and be able to tell you that at least so you can avoid it when you create your own cave maps. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, and create many nice and complicated cave layouts for your players to get lost in, fight monsters, and do other adventure shenanigans. Hope that it's cooling off a little bit now. Sun is almost down, and I might get a little bit cooler now, and I can enjoy some time on the balcony. Until then, for the next mapping session, enjoy your map making or whatever you do this summer, and all the best.